everybody, it's a Plant-Based Business Hour. I'm Elysabeth Alfano. Thanks for being with me. I am happy to be here with you because I'm talking plant-based steaks. That's right. We're not talking burgers and sausages. Been there, done that a gazillion times over. We're cracking the code for plant-based steaks. They are indeed on the market. If you have not heard, Juicy Marbles has brought plant-based steaks to the US and Europe. I'm going to bring on the Juicy Marbles team, Tilen, Vlad, and Maj, all of you, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. Ooh, let's not mess around. You're from Slovenia. No one's ever heard of you before, and boom, you solved the problem of plant-based steaks. Tell me who the heck you are. Let's start with Tilen.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Tilen. I am a food scientist by education, but I graduated probably now 15 years ago. And at the time, food industry didn't seem like an exciting field to be in, although the study itself was interesting. So I switched to IT and built a company in IT, which is called D-Labs, and we grew it to about 100 people. But then I became plant-based roughly 5 years ago, and made me realize that food industry has changed. A lot of food startups are using the same innovation techniques and tools and approaches as IT startups. So it felt natural for me to find out my next challenge. And when I met Maj and Luka, I found the team to do the challenge.
So were you guys all friends before you started working together?
No, we actually met at a hackathon that I helped co-organize. And Maj and Luka came with this completely crazy idea of a bioreactor that was placed inside of a lid of a Nutella jar. So you could actually use it at home. It was connected to your phone, etc. So it was like, in the room, probably nobody else besides me who had a background in biotech, and Maj and Luka knew what it is about. But I was fascinated by the width of the idea. So I just started mentoring them, and later it became a business.
So just backtrack here, make sure I understand what you're talking about. You from an idea standpoint, when you met, you were talking about a bioreactor inside a Nutella lid, Nutella being that chocolate spread cream that we all love. I don't think they make a vegan version, but if
they don't.
Well, let's get on that, folks. Okay, you were talking about the possibility of home sort of individual creation of something that you wanted.
Imagine fermenting your own, lacto juice or your own vitamins or your own, whatever you would want to ferment. It was never a real commercial idea. It was just something that I enjoyed how the guys approach it. Like, we can do anything. We can do, electronics. We can do biotech. We can do, etc. So, I said, these two are something to keep. And I started mentoring and coaching them, and later even helped them co-found the company, put a bit of my money in. It became so interesting that I joined as a co-founder in the end.
Okay, so I can see the immediate attraction between Tilen and Luka, who's not here today, one of the co-founders, and Maj. So Maj, from this kind of, hey, let's have a bioreactor on something like a lid of a Nutella jar, I can see where this could lend itself to down the road the meat-o-matic, which is what you have invented now, which makes individual plant-based steaks. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your engineering background and how the idea came together when you met Tilen and Luka, and then later Vlad, of plant-based steaks being the first thing you wanted to do.
Oh boy! So my engineering background, actually, formally, I'm an engineer of biotechnology. So basically, more on the fermentation side of things. That's why also the bioreactor in Nutella lid was like the first thing that we pursued. But since the days that me and Luka met at the food biotechnology class, actually, we were quite fond of tinkering around with different hardware solutions for biotechnology, food science, stuff like that. Basically, we were mostly focusing on making like the most advanced and the coolest equipment possible for the cheapest, for the most accessible amounts. So any student could buy stuff like that. And therefore, also the idea for Nutella lid bioreactor. But since me and and Luka and Tilen became like a true product development team at the beginning, and pursued also at some point the idea and later on the product of plant-based burger, which we also commercialized. It became apparent that texture in plant-based meats is really an unsolved problem, especially for like bigger cuts. You can make something smaller, like chicken chunks or maybe some pulled pork product, maybe nuggets, but to make like a steak or just like a bigger piece of fibrous material, that was something that's practically impossible. And that's when we started doing a lot of research, reading a lot of scientific literature, checking out what's on the market. And there were no solutions that were available to basically just buy. So we had to develop something of our own. We found like a physical principle. So that's something I also studied at the time, like doing a part-time thing with physics. And I know that there's a device for measuring viscosity of fluids, which has this amazing architecture that enables one to create laminar flows inside a closed system. And basically, this architecture enables you to produce something to make something that's basically a tabletop appliance that in turn creates something that's fibrous from plant protein. It may sound a bit complex, but for us, it was something that was, an aha moment. This is something that we can actually build. This is something that we can actually build ourselves, in like a garage startup at the time. And basically, that's what we did.
Okay, so I'm going to boil that down for people, and you did a great job, of course. But people think that you did a wonderful job. But okay, people think of
Elizabeth to boil it down.
Okay, we think of juicy marble steaks as coming from nowhere. Like, who the heck are these people? And suddenly they're on the scene. But of course, you had started with burgers before, and in Slovenia and in Europe, you had been working on products. What makes the meat-o-matic, I guess I'll say, but also the production of plant-based steaks so interesting is that you've taken that tabletop idea. So now this makes it replicable for restaurants, let's say, where you could sort of churn out, I know that's not the right expression, but one could fabricate, that's not the right expression either, create plant-based steaks right on a table without needing an entire factory, because you've boiled it down to, you said the viscosity of fluids, maybe I won't say that, but you've boiled it down to a simple process that can be tabletop, which is so fascinating. So, and so the key here that's I want people to take away is it's revolutionary. We're going to get into texture and marbleized fat, of course, but it's revolutionary not just because you are the first plant-based steak on the market. And when we say steak, that's exactly what we mean, folks. I'm going to show you pictures in just a minute. We're talking about whole cuts of meat. So that in and of itself is revolutionary, but then how it's made, this ability to mass market one at a time is a very interesting concept that I want to get into. But I also want to introduce Vlad, because a third part of this brand that is revolutionary, I'll say, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's certainly cutting edge, is the cool factor, which is where Vlad comes in. A lot of this young energy about like, oh, it's cool, we could do something tabletop, and there's like bioreactor under your Nutella lid, this is all cool. Vlad really rocks that with your marketing, which is cutting edge. Vlad, who the heck are you? And tell us a little bit about Mr. Marbles.
I was just thinking when Maj and Tilen were saying like where we met and stuff, like why are they lying? Why are you not just saying that we met at a lonely boys club for vegans? Nobody has any more friends, and we just need we're a support group. We're a support group for each other.
Well, I don't know. Single men have it pretty good. Single vegan men, you've got your choice out there potentially.
Yeah. Give me the list.
Noted.
So what do? I'm a designer, and actually no, let's say I'm a communications guy in the company, to just make a more broader umbrella term. But I'm over the years been dabbling in photography and design and video and comedy and all these other things that are just very interesting. And so branding is the perfect outlet for a person who is needs to preoccupy himself. So what you see is a manifestation of a very preoccupied mind, trying to transform business lingo into something that people will kind of understand.
Well, I'm showing here the Juicy Marbles website. I'm trying to get to Mr. Marbles, your mascot, who's this cool, oh, here he is, cool cat who really stands out in your very red, meat-like blood red signature color, which is so fun.
We still haven't figured out, Mr. Marbles, who he really is, right? So we have some clues, right? We see that he's like a new age guy, like a Renaissance cat that's really into a lot of different things, but we still haven't seen what he's underneath the glasses. And I think he's a very fragile kitty.
Oh.
So I think over the time, his more fragile, kind, gentle self will be revealed to the public. And I'm very excited to see where he will take us.
Okay. Well, I would like to know Mr. Marbles' take on the Juicy Marbles name, because everybody's been asking me about that.
Sure. So the name has to go back to how we met Vladimir, actually. We launched a burger here, plant-based burger here in Slovenia. And I knew Vlad from his agency where he was created before, helped us with that brand from our former company. So, I knew he's a little bit crazy, but just enough that he does brilliant stuff. So when we asked him to make the brand for our burger, it was ingenious. Just the customer who we basically we did almost a white label product for a retail chain here, but they kind of butchered the brand. They took out the life of it. So we're kind of not happy with our brand, not happy with Vladimir, was not happy with us, but the energy stayed and the craziness. So when we had to do another brand, Vladimir was the obvious choice. The name traditionally were called, the company was originally called Bevo, which stands for biological, ecological, organic, and vegan. But it kind of didn't resonate with anybody. So when we had to incorporate in the US, when we got into Y Combinator, we had to choose another name. So the company is actually called FormidableFoods.inc. But then Vladimir was very smart in suggesting that we don't need yet another adjective something company. And we did a workshop in which we basically got a couple of favorites. And the Juicy Marbles was a clear favorite amongst us. We're all just, a bit antsy about the connotations of that word. But then, once you pair it up with the picture of our product and our brand, basically all the other connotations kind of fade away, and all you do is remember the name. And this effect it has on people is something we are, trying to take advantage of right now.
I just want to add to this that I really don't think what we're doing is that crazy, right? I think we're just having fun as, groups of people who are close have fun. And when you're in an intimate environment, you kind of just have fun in this way. And we're just letting that sip through, right? So I don't think it's even that radical. I think what we're doing is just honest. And maybe it's a little, unconventional for a business, but it really, if you look at all of the things, it's not that out there. I mean, at least to me, it seems.
Well, one thing, I'm almost 40, so for me it's crazy. Vladimir is like 30-ish. For him, it's like fun, and Maj is like in his 20s. Well, but
Yeah, they're just normal. Yeah.
Something, and to him it's normal. So we go from normal to fun to crazy.
Yeah, I think Luka, who's the fourth founder and is missing here, is actually, I would argue, the craziest, right? So, he's the guy behind me, like, do it more, He's the little devil, like, use that word that is forbidden, I think that's Luka.
I can see that in him. I'll say that I'm in my 50s, and what I see is this sense of play, which is a lot of joy. So I see a lot of everyone's really enjoying the work that they're doing. That is what comes through to me. And I want to get back to that, but I think a lot of people are wondering how the heck you make it. So we talked about this tabletop Meat-O-Matic, which I think you're going to the Meat-O-Matic 2 So a larger scale so that you can make 10 at a time, not one at a
It's
time.
going to be a Mickovic 9001.
Okay,
Just
nice.
It's the 9000. No, just, so the public is aware of how this goes.
Okay, everybody. So be on the lookout for the Mickovic 9001. But beyond how it's made, really what we're talking about that makes steak is that marbleized fat. And I will tell my impressions of the product because I have had it in just a second. But I want to hear how, probably from I'm guessing, or maybe from Tilen, how you get marbleization in your meat.
Yeah. So it's let me try a simple version, and then Mike can correct me. Basically, what we do is we have a machine that can do the muscle part of the tissue, the muscle tissue, and we have a system for the fat part of the system. So imagine you have 2 buckets of tissue, and then we assemble the steak tissue by tissue. That's kind of the way we do it.
And horizontal or vertical, or maybe you can't tell me, of course, don't say anything with the IP, but.
I mean, it's obvious that the layers are stacked together. Now, in which way they are stacked together when we do it, it's a bit of a secret, but yes, they are stacked together.
Okay. I want to show a couple pictures from when I experienced the product. So you can see here that this is a chunk of meat for those of you listening on podcast, and you can see how it pulls away just like meat. So fibers, it looks like fibers and tendons, and it doesn't crumble apart when you cut it, for example. So when I was cutting it with a knife, sometimes with meat, if you remember back in the day when anybody was eating that, you had to work against the meat, right? So I felt when I was cutting through juicer marbles, there was that texture that didn't fall apart as soon as I put my fork in. I had to actually work against the meat. So it's amazing to me that it stays together.
For reference, on exactly that note, this is actually a physical property of product that you can measure. And just for reference, a regular beef has a score of 577, and we have a score of 533 or something like that. So we're like 10 to 15% softer than actual beef.
Wow. Okay. Well, you felt that in the product right away. Okay. So we're talking about layering, and remind me, it's soy. Is that right?
Yes, it is soy. It is also gluten. But it's kind of the we are aware
you mustn't use that word, Tilen.
Yeah, sure, it's wheat protein. No, look, we are a startup, and our mission was to be on the market as quick as possible. Those 2 components are proven to work and have little off taste, so it was easy to engineer the flavor profile, easier. However, we are working on a gluten-free version. I'm still not giving up on soy, though. I think soy has a bright future.
It's just so functional. I mean, soy just checks off so many boxes. It's scalable, it's price efficient, it's functional, it has no taste, off taste, what have you. It's got lots of protein. So there's so many benefits to soy. Maybe you can tell me about, so we know that we're layering textures together. So we've got that tension in the meat, if you will, a score of 533. But tell us about marbleized fat, because that's what people think of and maybe even miss when they're trying to get something like a steak.
Okay, so the marbleized fat is like, I guess, some IP on itself, because we use only liquid oils, but we have a system that helps us incorporate this liquid oil in fat tissue-like structure. So basically, when other companies are just using coconut fat and it just slowly melts away when you cook it and stays in the pan, our product actually has fat system that renders similar to how animal fat would render in actual steak. And this is something that we've done through also another round of engineering, or let's say not engineering, but just inventive cooking, because engineering sounds wrong, but actually what it is something that you probably can't find in any other product that's plant-based meat products. So.
Let me hop in there because I'm showing everybody live here on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter, the product up close, and you can see that white marbling of the meat. Is that just, how do you get that consolidated fat? Obviously, coconut fat won't do it because it bleeds out, if you will, when you cook it. But how do you get that consolidated fat to stay that way lined in the product?
That is a very good question that is actually a trade secret for now.
Yes, of course. Okay.
So can't go into much details, but I can assure you that it's very tasty on its own also.
Yes.
And also we're only using sunflower oil. One of the parameters was like, can we use unsaturated fats only in this product? So we kind of achieved it. But yes, the tech that went into doing the fat system is under a bit of a secret.
So somebody asked me live what I thought of the product. I am telling you, it was scary, freaky like steak, but it didn't have the gristle. So one of the things I was happy about when I gave up meat was that I didn't have to chew things that I'd have to pull on or that didn't give up, if you will, like tendons and gristle and chunks of fat, just awful and disgusting, quite frankly. So here are some of the things we did with steak at our house with some mushrooms and potatoes and tomatoes. It was just really wonderful. We just really, really liked it. So very authentic. I would say it's steak without the gristle. That's how I would describe it. It's not like steak. It's steak without the gristle. So really exciting. I tried the filet mignon product. Let's talk a little bit about that. Whomever of you wants to join in, and you don't have to wait for me either to like ask questions. If you feel like bouncing off each other, feel free to do that as well. But so you decided to start with filet mignon. Why filet mignon? And then we can get into pricing, because right now I think you've got a taste club going on, and you've got really high-end pricing, and filet mignon is expensive. So let's start with that. Why filet mignon?
Sure. So we were like new to food. I mean, I studied it, but it's been 15 years since I did. And when we set out to do a steak, basically we used one of those butcher's charts of how you cut meat into steaks that they have hanging on the walls.
Oh, yes.
So we had accidentally in a kitchen that we are renting, we had one of those charts on the wall. So, Maya was asking, which part of meat should we do? And was like, okay, this one's too difficult, it has a bone. This one is okay. This one's too big. This one, la, la, la. And the filet mignon, if you think of it, is actually quite a simple piece of meat, right? It does have marbling, but it doesn't have any signature features. It's I would say like nice, you could say homogeneous. It doesn't have any special patterns and stuff like that. So it was actually that's one point. And then the second point was, I don't know who we spoke to, but one of the mentors told us, you guys think about how, why people are doing, tuna, bluefin tuna. Why all the cell culture guys are doing expensive pieces of meat? Because higher margin allow you to make more money and survive potentially longer, right? So that was also so there's two reasons. It's a uniform piece, and also it's also its real meat counterpart is one of the most expensive cuts of meat. So that's why we went with it.
And also, I think a filet mignon is tender. Is that right?
Basically, filet mignon originates from tenderloin, which is basically one of the most tender cuts of beef that you can get. It's so tender because beef or cow actually doesn't use it as much, because it's at the end of the body. And the thing is that there is only 2 tenderloins, which are these smaller pieces, smaller muscles per 1 cow. So basically, to produce another tenderloin, you must butcher half of a cow. So what we are doing with producing only tenderloins for now is basically democratizing this expensive premium cut of meat. So basically making only the cut that is most preferred by consumers, but at the same time, we don't have to butcher more cows for that. So basically, it makes most sense to start with that and not something else.
So let's talk about that. Yeah. Go ahead.
That has to be amended with why the hell does it cost as much as it costs right now?
Right. Yes. So that's what we're getting into. So we're talking about democratizing meat, and that, with plants, you can control it. So it's not going to be this one rare piece of meat with this huge cow. It's going to be something that we make with the Meat-O-Matic 9001, 9002, etc. But right now it's super expensive. So let's talk about that. What is the price right now of a juicy marble steak if anybody wanted to get it? And how long is the wait?
Yeah, so it's all connected, right? there is a wait. There was an even longer wait. People were just like flooding us with orders. So we asked our smart mentors at Y Combinator, guys, what should we do? And they said, well, you can just increase prices to an insane level that nobody will buy it, and you'll have.
Now there's a business plan.
So so we did it. We thought it was insane enough that nobody would buy it, but people are still buying it. So this actually informed our, also our decision making, how we want to go forward. So definitely, we do, in the mid, even in the midterm, we do want to go down with the prices and achieve price parity with the signature cuts of meat, so to say. However, since we achieved this premium level, we had some clever ideas on how we could make the premium product even more premium by using even more special techniques and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we want to position ourselves, is to be the plant-based company that didn't say, okay, so beef is done, let's go for chicken now, but rather we will dabble in beef, and we have some exciting products up our roadmap that will showcase what can be done if you take plant-based meat and the understanding of what real meat is all about in terms of textures and different sources and the way what the animal was fed. They all kind of have effect on how the meat tastes. So we want to recreate a little bit of that.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, rather than just skip to, okay, we did pork, we did beef, we did chicken, one element of each of these, one item of each of these, you're talking about staying within a category, if I can call it that, and highlighting and discovering the subtleties of that meat product. So staying with beef, but maybe having a higher end and then also a lower end, or bringing price parity to, well, price parity for filet mignon would be what, about $25 a piece? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, it depends where you're buying it. If you're in Zurich, Switzerland, it's about 90 per kilo. So
it also depends which filet mignon you're buying.
True.
Definitely. Really? You can also spend up to $300 for a single filet mignon, which I think belongs to the olive Wagyu A5, which is a cow that's fed what is it, olive pressings or something?
Yeah. So that's basically the stuff that's left. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a range there, and we for now we want to stay in this range.
Okay, so when are you getting to price parity? So when is that? Because right now I think it's $150 for a piece of juicy marble steak. Is that right?
No, we changed the product slightly, so you can now not buy a whole tenderloin anymore, but you can buy 2 steaks, and 2 steaks would set you back about $75.
Oh, I would say that's even reasonable.
It's actually the same price.
Yeah. Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Simple math here, folks.
Yeah, but no. It's hard for us to say when we'll achieve price parity and what price parity is. But definitely, we want to work ourselves down. That down is like as quickly as our investors will allow us. Because if it would be us, we would do everything for free. No, I'm kidding. But we do want to make some money. But still, it's the long-term vision of the company is to actually make meat more democratized, or premium cuts more democratized.
Oh, okay. I know that comes from our conversations. We've talked about sort of your Slovenian perspective, and maybe I'll say European perspective on the purpose of business. And so maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that. Vlad, I'll let you take it on what you're trying to accomplish here. Obviously, you are all vegan, all of you are, and you're trying to, play your part in shifting the food supply system. But I think it's more than that.
To be honest, me and Luka are actually flexitarians.
Oh, I thought you guys were vegan as well. Okay. When did you decide to be flexitarian? Yeah, it just kind of throws a whole bomb in the whole situation. Just kidding, Maj. When did you go flexitarian, and when are you going vegan? Really is what we want to know.
Well, honestly, probably if I let's just say that for R&D purposes, I still need to eat steak once in a while. And that's basically the most un-vegetarian thing that I do. But basically, when I moved to Ljubljana to study and moved on my own, I basically became a vegetarian. And only when I returned home, basically my parents fed me meat and stuff because they didn't want me to starve and to get enough proteins, etc. And I tried to explain them that that's something that I don't need. But when your mom cooks for you, you just don't say no. And right now, when I'm living on my own, that's not a problem. But that's the reason why I'm not personally a vegan right now.
Well, this is actually great market research for your company, as you state, because you are the market, right? Flexitarians is really the market you're going for, or maybe even as you saw, I'm sure the Impossible Foods ad that just was launched, they're not even going for flexitarians, they're going for meat eaters, straight out, down hard meat eaters. So of course, that's the bigger market that you're going for. So as we talk about bigger markets and your investors and the pressure there to make certain margins or certain amounts of money, I'm wondering if you could share your business perspective about what's really driving you here. Is it that desire for change, or is it the enormous monetary potential here with a product like plant-based steak?
Imagine answering it's the massive monetary opportunity. Just imagine this conversation.
But hold on, come on, that's a big part of it, as you know.
Internet. We want the internet money.
Cha-ching.
No, obviously, it's really poetry in life when you create value externally and also for yourself, right? So I think all of us are impact driven. We can go into a very philosophical selfishness discussions about, that there's always present, but I don't think that's necessary. We really want to help aid change the food system for the better and the food culture, right? It's not just the food system, obviously, with its whole faults and, animal agriculture being obviously very ineffective in feeding the world. It's also the food culture is taking quite the hit since, since the fridge got invented or something. Now we have all these gray goo startups telling you don't even have to eat, you can just drink nutrients. So we really also want to champion the pleasure of food and what the ritual of food brings about. Also as a most intimate, sacred ritual that you can perform for yourself and for others, right? The primal one that is kind of slipping away from our culture. So that's one aspect, and obviously, the very talked about is and why we started with beef. Is the inefficiencies of the food system. Beef alone taking 60% of all agricultural land while providing 2% of world's calories, and many more data like this that just makes it seem like this is not working, right? So this is not even necessarily an ethical question if people care about animals and stuff like that, which I think they should, but it's really a humanitarian issue as well. So maybe that's one of the things that's not even talked about that much, right? That basically out of 780 million people who are under the poverty line, most of them are the people who produce the food. And that's because we distribute crops so unevenly because we have to feed the cows, they need to feed, the wealthy West and so forth. So there's so much to be done in the food industry, and we're not. By the way, we're not here saving the world. We're doing a little part. We want to have as big as impact as we can have, and we see plant meat analogs will play a major role in hopefully developing a let's say livable future.
Yeah,
okay, so much that I want to talk about there, but I don't want to interrupt. Did someone want to interject?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit something like I struggle the most when I have good friends who are not vegan, or even parents or family, struggle with what they can do, what they can cook for me or for my family that will appear a decent meat substitute to them, but will still be plant-based. So that's one of the challenges, is this unifying effect such a product can have, because you can sit down as a, let's say, an unsplit family again, and don't have to sacrifice you being a vegan in the case of or myself in going into like semi-conflict of what I'm feeding to my kids with my parents.
He just wants his friends back.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to mention that. I mean, part of the beauty of this is, and I'll throw up a picture here in a minute, is the steaks arrive not technically raw, but your experience with it is as if you were receiving a raw product. So I had a conversation with an advisor of yours, Ron, the other day about, is it raw? Is it not raw? So it has been pre-cooked, and that's why you can ship it shelf stable. Once you open the package, you have to cook it within about a week, I think. But generally, you would consider it shelf stable. But your experience with it is that you would cook it up just like any chef prepares their meat, salt and thyme and sage, whatever you want to do with your meat, so that the cooking experience is still there, so that you can have that communal experience like Vlad was talking about, of making food for yourself and making it something special that only you would create, but also as you share and give to others. I mean, food is that ultimate connector, right? We all come together over food, which is why it's been a pity to riff off of what Tilen has said, to feel that there's a little bit of divide sometimes if you come to the table as a plant-based person and then everyone sees this as a schism between the group, which obviously it doesn't have to be. But let me throw up that picture because I think it's interesting that the product arrives. It's the only product that I know of that arrives really like a raw product. Let's see if I can show this. Let me get rid of, can everybody see this? Let me get rid of this banner here. So yeah, it arrives just like raw meat, and it tells you flat out that it is raw plant-based meat, although it's not technically raw, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
In a plant meat sphere, this is what we consider raw.
And what has been the reaction to those people who have received it? I know you've gotten a lot of positivity about taste, but what has been the reaction about cooking it and how people are experiencing the product?
Yeah, we learn as we go, actually. I mean, there's the feedback is mostly positive, but there's like little bits and pieces that you learn when you go along. A lot of the questions in the beginning were like, how do I make sure I don't overdo it? The classical steak question. And it's like you cannot overdo it. I mean, it will be medium rare, regardless of how long you cook it, right? There's questions of seasoning it, etc., etc. So we refined the instructions along the way. We also had some help with some local renowned chefs here to basically help us improve how the cooking would be done optimally. Otherwise it's like real meat. It's quite versatile, and we've seen people do extreme things to it, like somebody did it in a pulled beef sandwich, which I think is a waste of our efforts, but still it's if they want to, they can do it.
I did it.
Yes, I know that you did it.
Stop wasting the team's
I wanted
efforts,
to show my work.
Sure, you showed it, but it's like we spent like a year of figuring out how to put it together, and you shred it to pieces.
I thought I was doing a good thing.
So this is the interaction of the team, which is why I always like it when I see more than one, from an investing standpoint. I always like it when I see more than one founder, because so much of what happens between the founders is sort of magic, and you get those great kernels of creativity when you're riffing off of each other. Okay, back to the consumer and how they can experience this if they're lucky enough to get any and they can afford it. I know we talked about price, but I'd like to hit it up again. Right now it's, what did you say, $75 for 2 pieces of steak? Yeah. And when do you see that coming down? I think you said you can't nail it exactly, but what's the general goal in the business plan to start altering your price? That's question 1. And question 2, are you still running the Plant-Based Steak Club, and how's that going?
Yeah, so the testing thing Vladimir will take in terms of timing of reducing prices. As our production capacity grows, we'll start reducing the price and introducing new products. So it's hard to tell when we'll hit price parity, but I can for sure say that the plan is to have a more affordable price. I'm not saying price parity, but just like more affordable than currently in the next 9 to 12 months.
Great. Okay. And right now you are D2C only, right off of your website, juicymarbles.com. You can see it at the bottom of your screen. What's the next step? Is it restaurants or is it wholesalers, or where are you going with that?
It's a good question. I mean, there's been so much movement also because of the pandemic in various aspects of how you sell food. So, e-commerce has made significant progress in the last year, even when it comes to groceries, right? There's companies doing all sorts of things. So e-commerce might be a more important driver when we would think like 18 months ago. But obviously retail is still king. So, getting into retail in one way or another is for sure a goal of probably any plant-based startup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I know there's some restaurateurs who would like to speak to you in the U.S., so we can talk about those connections after this show. But speaking of connections, let's also talk about investors. During this interview here, one of the investors I connected you with has been texting me about his meetings with you guys, which seem to be going well. I understand that the investment community has been over the moon to get involved. What's going on there?
How to answer that question?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to.
What YC does, definitely, it shows you to a lot of investors, and it prepares you very well for basically to grow the company at the biggest of scales. And this is something that really interests a lot of investors. But what do we do now? Because we got a lot of spotlight. We need to pick out like the finest of investors that are not in it just for the money, but for the mission also. So this is something we've been basically having a lot of discussions with investors. What are their values and how can they help us achieve the mission? Not only get financial gains, like you said, there are present, but that should not be the main goal.
And I'm imagining that you're finding a lot of mission-aligned investors and strategic investors that can help you make connections with co-manufacturers, this kind of thing.
Yeah, we found some really amazing people that helped us, all the way back from when we were still, a three-student team, scraping money together to file the first patent, all the way to now, which is basically talking to serious VCs about closing a round.
Yeah, when will you close that round?
Fingers crossed that this should happen in the next 3-4 weeks, maybe.
Okay, this happened so incredibly fast because you just started this round, and I don't even know if you could call it a round. It was like seed. You weren't even like going for a series yet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, YC helps with all the process that they enforce on you, but still, it's quite amazing to basically be able to talk to so many investors and get their feedback, and then get many yeses, some no's also, and some constructive feedback on why I know, but still the vast majority is extremely interested.
And are you looking at any strategic partnerships at the moment? I had mentioned restaurants, and I know you were still talking like, well, retail's king, but
sure.
I'm just curious.
So food service is definitely something that is interesting, especially when you are ramping up production and maybe your volume is not as high as it should have been. Like I guess Impossible struggled a little bit with ramping up their volume, and the restaurant strategy paid out well for them. They build a reputable brand. You can control the experience. So we are looking for connections to restaurants, connections to retailers. Albeit keep in mind we are not yet ready to supply a major national retailer. Just in terms of the volumes, but we're happy to start the conversation now. So we are ready to roll out the product into retail when we are ready.
I have to say, I'm really looking forward actually to restaurants taking the product. It's like more of like a curiosity thing. The restaurant contact us that make meats on volcanic rock.
Oh.
So I really want to see what happens. So there's a lot of interesting restaurants. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they come up with. Not to be dissing on the regular house chef, of course, looking forward to see what they will do as well. But I've seen some crazy restaurants reach out to us. I'm really curious to see.
Well, and with those, you don't have to have too much of a volume. So you can go for this high-end chef experience when they're really curating something very special for the clientele, and yet you can keep up with that demand. Because how much are you actually making? What's the volume that you can make at this point?
Oh, that's a number that we would like to increase, but let's say that we're going to be able to supply a smaller retail chain in about 3 months' time.
And are you doing that in Europe only, or Europe and the US?
So we are incorporated in the US, and we intend to move into US and become available in the US market. However, we do think it's a better move right now for us to to produce in Europe and then ship it over. A lot of plant-based startups we've spoken to in the last 2 months are actually doing it. It's a quite complex process. The US has this nice organization called the FDA, and you have to go through their hoops to basically be able to do that. Yeah. But it pays off. So we want to do this, and obviously when the stars align, we do want to be present in the US with production facilities. Also, I mean, it's like beyond an impossibility, just the other way around. So.
Yeah, and Vlad, I'm curious: it's the Tasters Club, right? Or the people who can sign up to taste the product and give feedback and be a part of the kind of learning curve?
Yeah, I think it's the Juicy Marbles Plant Steak Tester program.
Is that still available?
No, the program is closed because we got too many applications. My brain exploded at some point because there's only so much information a simple mind like mine can handle. And right now we actually sent the first 2 groups and got 1 feedback for now. So now I'm getting into it, right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, slowly rolling into the feedback zone. So not yet. I don't have a lot of data yet from it because it's just going to begin. But we had to just figure out how to deal with everything, right? Because we're still a small team, and we got like over 4,000 applicants, and at the same time a lot of like media attention and stuff. So stuff changed for us overnight due to the PR campaign, and we just needed a little time to dig out of that, right? So
yeah,
it's like it's the sweetest challenge, but it's challenge nonetheless. So
still digging.
I mean, I'm actually really looking forward to talking to people about the product, really more than fundraising and all of this stuff. Like our life is meetings. Somebody asked me in a different podcast, what does an average Juicy Marbles day look like? I was like, I'm not going to answer that question.
Yeah, no, you're
in no average day, right? There's no rituals. It's just like we're in a genesis. It's the big bang, right, of a startup. The planets are still forming, right?
Well, you say that, and so much is true about how it's going for you guys. I mean, you've had incredible success right out of the box. I helped you with your press campaign, so I'll say, yay us. But, really successful, got on everyone's radar. People signed up immediately. They weren't thwarted by the price. They paid it anyway. The wait list at one point was 4,000, as you mentioned. The product holds up. I mean, I've tasted it, as I said. The taste is there. The texture's there. You're playing around with price, and really the key word is playing more than price, because you can bring down the price. You just don't have as much quantity as you would like. So to sort of give yourselves a breather, you really jacked up the price, but you can and will in time bring it down. So, I mean, everything is there to be enormously successful, such that the money is pouring in. So you've had really no time to breathe, but I can see a light at the end of the tunnel for you, particularly once you move to the US, to really start making the food more than spending time on emails, getting back to investors and responding to press. Does that seem like it's going to come in the next 6 weeks or so?
You are probably, I guess the types of email will change, and I guess Maj and his research team will go back to making fats and, all the great stuff. But for some of us, the email jungle will remain for quite some time. But I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm used to living in the email jungle. I don't take it I take it seriously, but I'm not stressed about it. That's gonna happen, and I'm happy to do it. But don't make any mistakes. We all passionately walk. Just yesterday, we figured out another piece of the puzzle in the production space, and we were all, celebrating how basically a thing that was invented so many years ago can now snap into our process.
And that will help you with faster production or more volumes? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know from my standpoint, because again, we work together on press, so I have a lot of people contacting me wanting information about the brand, and I can't wait to actually say, great, we can get you product. I can't wait to have the conversations more about, great, we're getting you food, you can experience it, and here's the joy of the food, rather than the questions about when will it come, when will it come, when will it come.
So right now, I feel like one of those, email signatures that people used to have that was like, don't print this email. Yeah. We're like, at this moment, we're like, you can ask us for a sample if you're a journalist or somebody who wants to try it and write about it, but keep in mind that you're gonna take this steak away from somebody who paid for it and is anxiously waiting to get it. So that's kind of the
journalist.
Yeah.
The demand is so high, and in a way it almost, I don't know how to say this in the right way, but it almost makes me not sad for other startups, but not every startup has this experience. Not every startup knocks it out of the park. That's why we started this conversation by saying, who the heck are you? You came from nowhere, which isn't exactly true. You were working on burgers, but nobody knew that you were working on burgers in Slovenia. You came from nowhere and you kind of took over the market, at least in whole cut plant meats. So let's talk about that kind of as an exit question. I'm curious about your predictions for the whole cut plant-based meat sector. What other, do you see competitors on the landscape? What do you see for the close future of that?
Yeah. What's close future? I mean,
this year. Well, within 12 months.
Yeah, this year I think we'll start seeing competitors with different techniques. I think the guys at Meaty are doing a great job with their mycelia product. Mm-hmm. I think plant-based is going to be, a challenge to get to a state where we are, but there's other techniques that have either scaling challenges or whatever. So in terms of the near future, I see great potential with collaborating with various ingredient startups out there. So there's the fat startups, there's the aroma startups, the packaging startups, all of that. So I see a lot of potential for collaborating. And improving the experience we are offering to our customers.
I'll just say sort of nobody listen on podcast or on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram and LinkedIn. I sent you guys an email about a fat collaboration. So I don't know if you saw that email, but I will send it again because I think it's a good one for you. I agree. I see the landscape as lots of collaborations and lots of opportunity there. And obviously the meat market is a $1.4 trillion market, and that number might be low. It might be up now to closer to 2. So, lots of room for opportunity and lots of room for different players. One last tactical question before I give you a quick exit question. Mushrooms, do you foresee yourselves working with mushrooms?
I mean, they are a great addition on the plate to our product.
Nice. Yeah, no, that is actually true. That's if you saw in my pictures, I had mushrooms on the plate. Okay, so you're not working with that. Well, as I sort of wrap up here, this has been so great to have you guys, and hopefully we've answered questions for a lot of you out there who keep contacting me and asking me like, why is the price so high, and when will I get it, and when will it be in the United States, and when can I have more, and what's to come? For all those people, hopefully this has answered some of those questions. I am wondering, each of you, a little bit of a philosophical take, starting with Maj. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now? Okay, 10 years ago for you, you were maybe 15. So let's say, what do you...
Let him answer that question exactly like we wanted.
You can change it if you want to 5 years. But
it's a good question. I learned, definitely I learned a lot from my... It's basically 13, yeah. So.
You were 13. Oh my word!
I was just a boy back then, but definitely I think if I knew back then, or maybe just like a few years earlier, that making a startup is so much fun and it brings so much more meaning into what you do, I would do it sooner probably. I guess that would be something. Yeah.
Okay, round fire. We're going fast. Vlad, what do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
Oh, God, I thought you were going to choose Tilen for this one.
Do you want me to take a pass on you?
Please.
Okay, Tilen.
I would just be happy. I mean, it's not like advice, but like use the things that you learned in school in a more creative way. So, I studied food science, but I haven't used it for 10 years. So maybe if I knew that, food can be this fun and this exciting, I would choose a different path and maybe present in the food industry from the get-go.
Okay. So use your background in a new and creative way. In this way, are you unleashing your studies, or are you not letting your studies curtail you?
I would say unleashing is the better word. Right now we're in a stage where, Maj and Luka figure something out, and I have the first say in, can this be industrialized? Have I seen a machine doing this in my studies? Have I, what do I think the economic aspects would be? So there's a lot of things that you kind of, I now can go back, and even though it's like, 15-year-old knowledge, I can still repurpose it today. So I would say unleash.
That's nice. Word. You can build on it. Okay, Vlad, you can't escape more. Get with the program.
My mind was just overwhelmed because, in 10 years, you learn so much. So, like, which one of the things that I've learned do I tell to my 10-year younger self? But I would say, do not fear being curious. I think, our culture is very obsessed with specialists, like, diving into one field. And I think not all people are like that. And that's, obviously me also. I'm not like a person that will obsessively dive into one field for their whole life. And because a lot of people around me were telling me, when will I start to focus? Why do you have so many interests? I think it just made me slower in the process of acknowledging that being having multiple skills, not mastered, but, to a certain level allows you to also have then a kind of a umbrella skill of connecting those things together, right? So it's a special kind of skill set and approach to work that I think, people like that work well with specialists. And that was a relationship that I was definitely unaware of at that age, and constantly trying to suppress myself, basically.
I love
that. Answer you philosophically.
No, this is beautiful. I love that you say this because I want people to get this. I have the same thing. I have a very varied past on a lot of different educational paths and experiential paths. And the result is, and it's how my mind works anyway, it's one of the unique assets I have in plant-powered consulting is that because I have so many tools in my toolbox, I'm an incredible connector for people because the breadth of what I'm exposed to and the nimbleness of my mind of not staying in any one lane, but hopping in between lanes and blending lanes and seeing the possibilities of connection makes me very valuable actually to companies where they have to focus and stay laser tight to get a product to market. So it's a unique skill set. And ultimately, if you don't have enough tools in your toolbox, so like Vlad, what you're saying, if you don't have enough diversity to choose from, you can't connect the dots that can make meaningful relationships, products, creativity, etc. So I think it is an unappreciated skill. You and I will have to have drinks later, basically, is what I'm saying. Okay. Again, we are rapid fire. The last questions as we round up. This time I'm going straight to Tilen so that I can give Maj and Vlad a little bit of a heads up. You're having a bad day. Things aren't working out as you would like. What is the phrase you tell yourself to get yourself back in the game?
Phrase? I don't tell myself any phrases. I just go home to my family.
Really? There's nothing you say like, tomorrow I start afresh or...
No. I just like, I vacuum, I garden, I take the trash out, I talk to my wife, I do homework with my kids. I'm too busy at home to be, boosting myself up with any talk.
Okay, I will help you out then. I will assign you a phrase. I'm just joking, but it sort of sounds like me. What you're saying to me is a body in motion stays in motion. You're just too busy to stop and dwell on it. So just keep going. A body in motion.
To be honest, I like to tell the joke that my mom is a shrink, so I grew up under psychiatric supervision, and that helps.
So you feel like you've got the mental tools to have the mental fortitude. Okay. Vlad, you got the pass last time, so you're second
I
now.
don't.
You have to
Yeah,
go.
I don't tell. I also don't tell myself things. I just think to myself how grateful I am for everything that I have, and then I go hug my wife and cuddle up with her, and that's it. That's all I need.
This is just a beautiful love fest. Mai, what have you got for me?
Yeah, I also like to cuddle. That's also a thing. But what I definitely like Tilen's approach. Being really stoic about it. Shit happens. Bad days always come, but you just gotta know that. I think it's Elon Musk who always says it, that doing a startup is like staring into the abyss and eating broken glass. So that days like that come, and you just gotta power through them. So you listen to some.
Really helps. I have to agree with that one as well. I clean obsessively when I'm down. I use it as a meditation tool. The more clean my house is, the more depressed I am.
Oh my gosh!
The worst day mine was. Just know
I would love it if that happened to me, but sadly it doesn't.
Well, you should combine forces, Vlad. You should go over and clean Mai's house. Lots to discuss there. When I'm really down, I chop vegetables.
You chop vegetables, okay?
Yes, chopping vegetables really relaxes me.
So you like a whole pantry of.
Yes.
Unchopped vegetables.
No, I chop vegetables for the whole week, and then I contain them in different containers. I just like that rhythm of doing the same thing, and it gets my mind out of it. I can't believe I didn't ask this earlier, and I'm really sorry. I have to ask this question, and then I have one last question for you. But this question is maybe not a short one. We talk about three men here who like to cuddle their wives, basically. You're turning the idea of what it means to be a manly man. I'm sorry if those words are wrong in today's new generation. I'm just sort of taking the meat industry head on here. And you're talking about, hey, here's steak made of plants, and maybe real men eat plants. Have you guys thought about it all, how you're taking on the macho-ness of meat with plant-based whole cuts?
That's an interesting question. It's really hard to answer correctly, so you don't insult anyone.
Give it your best shot.
Yeah, I think that manliness has, in modern day, a bit of a bad connotation that is perhaps wrongfully addressed to every man, I guess. Because there are a lot of qualities a man can do with his so-called perceived manliness, and it's not really dependent on gender. It's just something that is culturally stuck with us, and we have to oblige. But I think that just being confident with what you love and are passionate about it's not even a manliness statement, but just doing what you love and don't caring what other people think. I think something like that may be considered manly in some way. Steaks. We're doing steaks. They are like the manliest of the meats, maybe. I don't know. But at the same time, it's just not about that. It's just about doing something that we are passionate about, I guess.
I want to let you two chime in if you want before I go to town here.
I mean, it's like, how unmanly is Elon Musk for making electric cars? And it's like,
I get it.
Things change.
I heard that, Vlad. Things change. Okay, Vlad, do you want to chime in?
Is this referring to steaks? Are we talking about why we're making steaks? And that I don't think we're challenging any manliness with plant-based steaks, but we have defined as one of the things that we care about as people is obviously just having a more chill definition of what it means to be a man. So one of the comics explaining the protein density is kind of jabbing at toxic masculinity, which I think there's a difference between obviously masculinity and toxic masculinity. So I think many things like that, perhaps one of the subjects is going to be felt in our brand because it's a platform that reflects us, and sometimes things seep through. We're not specifically trying to send a message, but amongst ourselves, obviously, we like to talk about feelings. At least I do. And maybe that's something that's part of us. I don't know. I wasn't expecting this question, really, you know.
we post an average of 5 hearts per day in our Slack messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, super.
I think this is a great question to end on, because I want to leave this as food for thought for the listeners here today. But I see this product in particular because STEAKS is perceived so much as a manly thing. Again, apologies if I'm using the wrong terminology. And it has been such an unfair closet that men have been locked in. Maybe that's not the right word either, but room that men have been locked in, that either you're really manly and therefore you eat meat, or you're not manly. Sorry, either you're really manly and eat meat, but then you have colorectal cancer and heart disease, or you're healthy, but you're not a man. So if you're choosing to eat healthy for yourself, you are denied being a strong man, which, finding your own health is the biggest strength you could have. And so you've got basically they can't win. Either they're healthy, but they're not a man, or they're a man, but they're wildly unhealthy. What an awful position to be in. And this gives them a door. It's a freedom to have health, because you have a pretty clean label. We didn't talk about that, but no saturated fats, because you're looking at sunflower oil and your soy, which, another conversation about manliness. We can have that on another show. Poor soy gets a bad rap, but you got a high protein, not saturated fats, relatively speaking, a clean label, all things considered, when you're comparing it to steak. So, this is a freedom product. This is the opening of the door for men to not have to suffer those consequences. That's how I see it.
Wow.
I know you can.
I didn't know that we suffer so much, but I guess society sometimes pressures people into such, strong niches. You gotta eat meat because you're a man. And I think the movie Game Changers really, challenged this thought. And this is just something that we need to power through as a society. Why should steaks be for men? It's just so weird.
Yes.
To think about it. Yeah.
And as you think about changing the food supply system and also making money, I can see this as also, moving the needle for men, because, we live in a bubble within a bubble within a bubble, right? We're all in cities. We're all plant-based. We all got to go to college. I mean, we're bubble and bubble and bubble. But for a lot of people, there is that pressure. If you're eating vegetables, you're just not a guy.
I think if our brand becomes, big, I think we're going to feel the responsibility to move some other needles as well. I think it's, if we make a platform that's large, it's good to stand up for things. And, in this case, undo the damage done by toxic marketing that basically gets women and men. We're both locked in cages of definition, which are just unnecessary, right?
Yeah. That's true, but on the other hand, there's a long way to go. I mean, just the other day I came home and my son was not in the best mood. And then what's up? He said, they called me a vegan fart.
So and you see how it marked him.
Yeah, it did. So, that's why I'm telling you, we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go. So you guys have that responsibilities on your plates as well. Okay, I could talk to you for a long time. So basically, we're going to have to do this all again in maybe 8 months to see where you guys are. I would love that. A one-word answer on our way out, going around the room here, starting with Maj.
Elizabeth, is this I'm just sorry to chime in. Is this a tactic of yours that you say for the 6th question in a row?
I know. I swear to God, that's the last question. Well, I don't want to take everyone's time, but then I can't let you go.
I'm just trying to see into the mind of the host. Is this is a strategy, right?
I know this is just completely improv as we work through. But I was going to ask Maj first, but instead, because of that, I'll put Vlad on the spot. Okay, you're running around. You don't have time for lunch. What is your go-to snack?
Oh, peanut butter jelly.
Yes, but jelly's not vegan, is it? Peanut butter and marmalade. Doesn't it have gelatin in it? Jelly.
Oh, I mean, okay. I buy a brand here that's called Bakinatain, aka Grandmother's Secret. It's an old Balkan recipe. It's the good stuff. It's vegan. It's okay.
Well, I love Slovenia. I'm going to have to come back to Slovenia because I've been there before. I'm going to have to go back to Slovenia and try that. That sounds super fun. Maj, what's your one thing to eat when you don't have time? Snack on the go.
Yeah, well, basically.
Come on, Maj, be honest now. Be honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It's it's also a local thing, but basically, me and my colleague, we are drinking something that's similar to Soylent, just a local variety. Basically, it's a protein meal replacement in a liquid form. So something that Vladimir actually hates. Like it just. But from a food technology standpoint, it's like an amazing product. You can drink it in like 10 seconds, and it's a lunch for you. So.
You see, this is the problem that we need to fix. You see, this is.
Well, I'm thrilled that you didn't say cevapcici, which of course is not Slovenian.
No.
It is Serbian, but the countries are relatively speaking kind of close if you're comparing it to Chicago or Los Angeles. So I thought you might give me some local meat, Slovenian meat or regional meat. You didn't, so that's good. But you came up with Soylent, so that's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that one out of you. Okay, so basically, I'm going to Slovenia again so that I can try grandmother's secret and I can cook for Maj. That's what we've got so far. Tilen, what's your go-to snack?
Hummus.
And don't say like, I steal my kid's lunchbox.
Hummus.
Yay! Oh, you classic plant-based.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
I mean, to add to that, we actually tried our machine with chickpea flour, and somewhere in the future, I will make fibrous falafels.
Ooh, and I would eat that in a heartbeat. Chickpea, I love
Tilen's
chickpea.
idea, so it's definitely he said to us that he will just do a spin-off if we would not do it.
As soon as the lab machine is free, I'm doing a fibrous falafel for sure.
Okay, well, we'll have this interview again when you've got fibrous falafel. I want to thank hopefully I'm saying this right, Hrovat? Yeah. Maj Hrovat.
Yeah, close enough.
Hrovat. Gosh, Vlad Mickovic. I've got that right. Yes.
Mickovic.
Mickovic. Hrovat. Mickovic.
Yeah.
Hrovat. Tilen Travnik. That's an easy one, right? Oh, good for me. I want to thank you guys for all that you do. We're having such a good time here, but really you're working incredible hours. I know how hard you're working, and you're working on some big things like plant-based steak and, price parity of meat for a lot of people. That's going to make a big difference. We didn't really talk about famine issues around the world, et cetera, but it plays a big role in democratizing meat. And even we have manliness on the agenda. So you're taking on some really big issues with enormous success so far. The world is waiting for plant-based steaks. I can't wait till we can get more people Juicy Marble Steaks. Everybody go to juicymarbles.com and of course follow them on Instagram. Again, thank you, Tilen, Maj, Vlad. You guys don't go away. You all stay put. Everybody on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube and Twitter. Thank you very much. Follow me on all of those platforms and subscribe to the Plant-Based Business Hour on iTunes. Everybody, I'll see you next week, you guys.